Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush for the Science of Fantasy Football.com's where D Mike hang out, so you can check us out there. D Mike's got his waiver wire depth chart, his weekly values that are valuable. I've got my Thursday night snaps and whatnot you can check out Vegas. And this is part one of my snaps report for covering weeks 1 to 5. And I've also going to bring back my efficiency metrics, looking at team efficiencies, home and away splits, these kind of things to get us a little deeper, to help us fill those flex spots and break ties and help us in daily fantasy, etc., etc. We've had 5 weeks of data. That's enough to get a little bit of handle on what teams are doing. It's always flowing. It's never static. And what you believed week 1 is probably changed. Okay, it's always going. It's always shaking. The ground you think is firm is never firm. Okay, in some of my lessons, I talk about uncertainty and making decisions under uncertainty. I talked about that in the podcast, I think the Data Lab on For Frequency's Sake, the podcast. That's our sister network. And I talked a little bit, some books, and there's lots of articles, textbooks on decision making under uncertainty. Okay, there is a difference between risk and uncertainty, and most people just use them interchangeably. And they'll just go with risk versus really a lot of what they think is risk is uncertainty. And there's levels of uncertainty. Some books I would recommend. Dr. Annie Dukes, famous poker player, has written a book in Thinking in Bets and Decisions. Nobel Prize winner. I forgot his name now. Oh man, it's bad. Anyway, he wrote a book, Noise, and Thinking Fast and Slow. Kahneman, yeah. Won the Nobel Prize for Behavioral Economics. Great books. I would recommend Nassim Taleb's Fooled by Randomness, The Black Swan. You should be putting that on your shelf and reading again, reading 3 or 4 times, okay? A lot of books you will read and just kind of scan and throw it out the door. No. You can't do that at all. There's lots of lessons and thinking that you should be trying to do. And I cut some of the time down on some of my early lessons from 2020 that are on my YouTube channel. You can check them out way back when. Okay, so I know. Tell me about this week. Yeah. Don't be worried about the fire. We got to learn to chop the wood. So don't be like my students at the university. I'll work hard later, but give it to me now. That attitude just doesn't cut it, folks. And that's not how you should structure. My process is what I do. My goal is to help you enter the world of fantasy football scholarship. Teach you how to use the science method and develop techniques. You don't want to be dependent on anybody. half the fun of this game for me, I don't know about you, I understand winning money, right? Cashing those checks. I got that. I'm all in on that myself. But I like to solve puzzles. Every week, your lineup is a giant puzzle. And you need to approach it like that. And you don't quite know. It's like muddy water, right? We have a lot of things to guide us. But when you stick your hand down in the water, hopefully there's, coming from Louisiana, hopefully there's not an alligator or one of those big snapping turtles, okay? You're going to lose some fingers, okay? So that's kind of how setting lineups are. You think you understand. It's like, oh, there's nothing down in that water. There's some fish. I'm not worried about that. You think, and then all of a sudden, rut-row, something happens. So this is the process. This is what I do. I spent 6 minutes on another university professor diatribe here. Hey, I get going. Okay, I've been being a lecturer now since the 1990s, and actually pretty much since I hit the university in 1977. I was a student, and I changed side and became a professor. So I really hadn't left the game. Okay. It's just modified on what I'm doing, so I do admit that. Okay, let's hit my efficiency metrics, EFF. I developed this based on team PPR points scored per second. So there's a capacity of amount of points you can score and how fast. And then I look at yards per game. And so I interact with that and compare those and blend those into this efficiency metrics. And I have some headings you need to know. Okay, and we'll have to look at this chart a little bit. This may be kind of probably should have blown this up a little bit. But anyway, I think you can get it. 2023 is the complete season team metrics. So I have team 2023, last three, that's the last three games, their efficiency metrics. Home and away splits on efficiency. Then my ratio of comparing home to away, and then any apparent bias. So when the teams are skewed one way or the other, I assign them a high home bias or an away bias. Believe it or not, some teams, whatever reason, are better away, or at least so far this season. And you're saying, well, why is it? Well, that is the trick. Fantasy football is a system. It's a complex system. I'm measuring the top of the iceberg. I don't know how deep it goes. And regardless of what they say on Twitter and whatnot, a lot of these metrics catch one layer, okay? But they either don't understand it's a complex system, or they don't want to spend any time trying to research deeper, or if they have researched deeper, they're probably not telling you because they're gambling and doing and trying to beat Vegas. And I don't blame them. If you spend your time setting algorithms and machine learning and all the AI and all the different tricks and to beat Vegas in the sports books, I'm not sure I'd give it away. In fact, there's secret stuff that I've kept for myself. So that happens. Hey, okay. So anyway, that's framing the landscape, and that gives us a feeling of things that we can use. Okay, so here's my first chart, and I've sorted by last three games, high to low efficiency. The high is in blue. The teams with the worst efficiency are in red, and I show in green the top teams, the red the bottom teams. And there may be some usual suspects, and there may be some surprises here in efficiency. Okay? Buffalo seems logical. Seattle may be a little... Look at Denver. Denver has been scoring points. Okay? They just not been winning. Okay? Because their defense is bad. Houston's been on fire. Of course, Miami. New Orleans helped themselves last week. Detroit, the Chargers. Okay? There's a few others that you can recognize. Look at the bottom. New England. That's probably not surprising. Atlanta, the Giants, Jacksonville. That's why people are detecting Lawrence is disappointing this year, because the efficiency of that team is down. Cleveland, sad. Philly, even though they are doing well, because they got Jalen Hurts is amazing. Overall, the team is underperforming in efficiency. Las Vegas and Washington. Okay? So I think I use this to break flex ties, to go after team depth. In other words, I want to fish up here and not necessarily fish down here in some deeper place. Who are the teams that love to be home versus love to be away? We'll have that. And so let me show you the next figure. We're going to get to the home and away splits here. This figure shows team efficiency last 3 compared to the whole season, so a total 5. And I've got some arrows here. Pink arrows showing the uptick. Buffalo, Houston, and New Orleans have enjoyed a 3-game efficiency uptick. Okay, so notice the bars here were low for the whole season, and the line with the orange boxes is the last 3. So what this means is the bar way below what's happening now, that's this line here with the orange boxes, means that their first couple games sucked. Okay, notice a lot of teams are pretty close to the line. Okay, just to let you know, Kansas City has been doing a little better, but I thought it's so close, I will just make note of that. And what happens to opposite teams? These teams were doing really good early in the season, but have recently sucked. And that is the red arrows going down. A lot more of those than the improving teams, right? Green Bay has dropped off. Dallas, people are complaining. Indianapolis, of course, with the injuries there. Was it? Let's see. Is this Pittsburgh? Is this Washington? Who else? Atlanta and New England. So those are all on the downside. The last 3, we can see changes. I'm going to monitor this, but this is where we're at today. Okay, this is all we know is what's happened, right? We're trying to predict the future. This is suggestive there are problems. So when you're looking in that muddy water, when you see teams that have declined, that concerns me that there's some hidden badness underneath there that we're just not detecting. Things are not working, injuries, coaching, whatever. Some upticks, that's encouraging for some of these teams, okay, that are going up a little bit. So I'm encouraged there. I'm concerned there. So the buy and hold scenario, you see a lot of those, and they'll have all this flim-flammery about why you should get rid or not of a player. But to me, I like to start at the team level. It's kind of like the whole fruit, right? I just want to talk about one side of the apple. Tell me about the whole fruit, maybe even the whole tree. The whole tree's not doing good. The fruits are not going to do good. Okay? So quit judging the tree by the fruit. Okay? Look at the whole process. Look at the whole team. It's a complex system. So you miss a lot of that, folks. They're like I said, they're either don't care, can't do it, or hiding it, or maybe it's behind their paywall. I don't know. It's not out to see in the public anyway. And whatever it is, Dr. Bush giving it away here. So there's some what's happening now versus early in the season. And here's home versus away efficiency. And this little chart over here shows the team, the ratio of home to away bias. Anything above 1, you start skewing to home. Anything below 1, you start skewing to away. And I made some judgments on the cutoffs. Okay, that's my judgment. You might go up, you may go down. And I showed you the teams that seem to love the home in blue, and here's the teams that love their away. You're saying, what are these? These are the last 3 weeks, good and bad. I just wanted to remind you, so allow you to consider some of what's happening. So Atlanta, 1.9. That is double the league average of loving their home. Hey, my French bulldog going nuts. New England loves the home. Isn't that interesting? 2 of the worst teams love home. Okay. Arizona, Pittsburgh, Miami loves the home. Kansas City loves to be at home. Philadelphia loves home. Okay. Buffalo, Detroit, they're still pretty good at home. Maybe Cincinnati. So why would I care about home splits? Because if there are some fringe players in the flex from these teams and they're playing at home, that would help me put them in the flex. If they're playing away, that would make me concerned. Okay? So you can kind of help tie breaking. Teams that love the away: Green Bay, Houston, Washington, New Orleans plays better away. I'm a New Orleans fan. Chicago, Jacksonville, of course, remember, London, I consider away. So that I don't kind of know how to deal with that, but that's the data's the data. Minnesota, their old crappy turf field, everybody gets injured. No wonder they do better away. Giants, believe it or not, that's amazing, right? Look at the Giants, right? They are so skewed to the away. They're off the chart here, and Atlanta's the other. So that's the skew here from home to away. So again, using to help you break ties, making some waiver decisions, trades, etc. You know, this could change, but this is what's happening now. So I hope you enjoyed the efficiency. I covered this in our Data Lab podcast a little bit, so you can go and hear us discuss that if you want to, on for frequency sake. Okay. So now let's start my actual snap report now. Snap-based scoring metrics. PPR points per snap. Okay, it's not per second, per snap. And that gives us team positional landscapes. I, again, like to go from top to bottom in my research. And I think you're not doing yourself a favor if you try to do the other way, because you're already biased. Oh, well, that's a great player, so the team must be good. Maybe not. Maybe they're a great player on a sucky team. Okay, it can happen. So you can get bamboozled by this situation. So you can use, again, lineups, waivers, trades, daily fantasy sports, etc. So I show you the visual, and then I show you the colorized actual static chart here of the quarterback. Here are the good and the bad. Okay, green is good, red is bad. Here they are. So some of the better quarterbacks, number 1, okay, bringing home and scoring is Herbert, Chargers. Tua, Denver. Russell Wilson is playing great on a bad team because the defense is just, there is no defense. Chicago, Fields is doing good. Indianapolis, when Richardson was there, he's putting it together. So he's gone. Cousins, Jalen Hurts, Baltimore, doing good. New Orleans, quarterback, man, killing me. Dak, no wonder everybody's complaining. New England, Burrow, maybe he's coming back. Tennessee, the Giants, the Jets, San Francisco. Purdy's been okay, but not like compared to the other ones there. He's just got a lot of... Having CMC in your back pocket sure makes things pretty good, doesn't it? And then Cleveland. So right away, if I was going to carry a handcuff for quarterbacks, I would want to have Herbert, Tua's, Denver's, Chicago's, etc., their handcuffs more than anything, because the impact is going to be higher, right? If something happens to Herbert, you don't want to just fall totally down. Okay, and look, I don't even know who his handcuff is, but that's something to consider. I don't do a lot of quarterback handcuffs, so that's probably not how I play, but some people play. I know in Superflex, maybe that's important. I don't play a lot of Superflex either. So I'm strictly redraft, no dynasty. Very straightforward. I try to just focus on trying to do what I can do pretty good, I guess, as far as making money here. Running backs, I've got the highs and the lows. Here's the visual. You can see the levels. Miami and Denver, as far as PPR per snaps. Now realize, if a team doesn't give a lot of snaps to the running backs, then this is not going to catch that. All this is catching is when snaps are there, who's scoring high or not. So you can see, and again, this is all the running backs, not just the star running backs or the RB1s. Okay? So you got to kind of weigh this, but if you're asking where I want depth, Miami. That's why everybody getting so fired up about Jeff Wilson, etc., etc. Okay, Denver gets a lot of attention. Detroit, okay, Cleveland, San Francisco, KC, Dallas, Pittsburgh. Those are all situations and teams where you might want to get deep on the handcuff and the handcuff to the handcuffs. Whereas Houston, maybe not so much. Jacksonville, nah. Raiders, Chargers. The Chargers, Eckler's been out, but Kelly has not done anything. So this is a good measurement. Whatever they've got going is not working out there. Now, Kamara's back in New Orleans. So remember, this is catching 5 weeks. So we haven't really filtered that in. So that will probably change. So you can see teams that go up and down. Tight ends. There's KC, Logan Thomas, Washington. You want to know why I got him everywhere? Because of this. Houston. Schultz is interesting. Indianapolis, if you can figure out which one, and Jelani Woods is out there on IR. So if you're in a tight end premium, you might want to squirrel him away. Minnesota, Hockenson. You need Oliver if you got Hockenson. You need Gray if you got Kelsey. New England, if you can pick Henry or Gesicki and figure out which one's hot that week. Cincinnati, Seattle, same thing. Is it Disley? Is it, who is it? Fant. Which one? Baltimore. Well, there's Andrews. Okay. Here's the sadness. Boy, I love Freiermuth, but he just has been underperforming. Of course, he's been out. Vegas gave up Waller, and they have not found a replacement. The Rams. Kittle has been underperforming. I know last week, maybe that's Again, we're just 5 weeks in. We're just watching what's gone before. Doesn't mean this is what's happening. Goddard, another one that's been underperforming, but last week was good. So if you're a Kittle owner or a Goddard owner, maybe things are getting better. Cincinnati, Irv Smith coming back. Maybe that gets better. Miami, people talking about Claypool's going to be the new tight end. That'd be interesting. Tampa Bay, maybe, was it Ott? Is his first name? I forgot his last name. Anyway, that would be nice to see. Wide receivers, Dallas, Miami, Chargers, Buffalo, Denver, believe it or not, just picking which Denver player. Houston, Minnesota, Tampa Bay. Okay, the sadness, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Cleveland, the Jets, Baltimore, Jacksonville even has been underperforming. Philly has been underperforming. New Orleans, Rams, Chicago. 5 weeks, here's the picture. So you need to start playing with this and thinking, is this what's going to happen in 5 more weeks, or is things going to change? That's part of your investment. If you consider players' investments on your team, do you hold or drop them? Do you trade them away? Do you try to grab players? This kind of data can at least inform you about what's gone on before. Okay. I then put the teams back together and look their positions. Okay. And so now I show you 4 teams at a time. I show you quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver, PPR snaps, scoring. So this is, so if you just want to know what this is, 0.02, basically a fifth of a point per snap. So in Arizona, you need 5 snaps to get a point on average from the quarterback. That's how you interpret that. Okay. You're saying, well, what are some of these colors I see, Dr. Bush? Well, what I did was I colorized the extreme good and bad for each position. And if you see no colors, that means it's average. So the story with Arizona, everybody's average. Hey, quit barking. Come on in this chair. Atlanta, sad for the running back, sad for the wide receiver. Baltimore, quarterback's doing good, tight end's doing good, probably not surprised. Average running back, the wide receivers are killing you. Look at this. Buffalo, it's all about those wide receivers, isn't it? Boy, if Diggs gets hurt, Shakir and some of these deeper plays are going to help you out so you can start anticipating who to squirrel away or not. So sometimes if you look at the team, like I'm showing you here, this tells you the team's story right now. So part of our predictions in preseason, and I think people, if you go top down, you get a feeling for the teams, right? You get a feeling for what's happening. And knowing that Baltimore loves the tight ends, this is not surprising that Andrews was probably worthy of picking up. They traditionally love their tight ends, for instance. So you can make some predictions. If Atlanta keeps on this trend, are you going to draft Drake next year? If they still have Ritter? So, there is some year-to-year predictability, and I covered some of that in the off-season. So if you're just catching me now, you missed a lot of the prep. And remember, drafts are about 60% of your success on average. Some teams more or less, obviously. But of the teams that I've drafted over the years, I try to draft around 40 to 50 redraft teams. I've found that about 60% of the players I draft, I keep. So I assume that means I'm doing pretty good if I'm keeping them. So, I feel pretty good about my drafting. Okay, not great. There's always room for improvement. But there it is. So I show you all these figures for each team along the way Carolina's average. Chicago loves the quarterback. Cincinnati's so sad with the tight end and Burrow. Not too bad. He's being kept afloat by the running backs and the wide receivers. Okay. So you can, and look at Cleveland. Look, it's all about, you wonder why Ford is excelling, because that's kind of how they structured that team. Not the wide receivers. It's like the quarterback's sad. Dallas, quarterback's sad. Good thing they have good wide receivers and running backs to pull their cojones out. Sad quarterback. Denver, look at all the goodness here. People cracking on Denver. The reason you're cracking is because their defense sucks. So they're always playing catch up, so they're always throwing. Okay? So maybe you get some junk time on some of this. So don't forget about that. Detroit, believe it or not, it's been the running backs. Montgomery. You wonder why everybody's squawking. Well, that's why. Look at the scoring. It has been crazy. Green Bay's average. Houston, sad running backs, but nice tight end and wide receivers. Quarterback's average. Quarterback's been good in Indy because Richardson has been running it in, but he's gone. Tight end's been doing good. They just used too many. Jacksonville, sad running back, sad wide receivers. Kansas City, all about the running back and the tight end. Mahomes has been just average on scoring, folks. I know that hurts people's feelings, but that's what the data is telling us. So I did draft too much Mahomes based on this metric, and that's sad. I should have drafted Herbert, right? Look at this. 0.03. That means for every 3 snaps, Herbert's bringing in a point. Here's every 4 or 5 snaps in Houston. Look at Kansas City, every 5 snaps. Can you imagine every 3 snaps? How great that is if that keeps on? Oh my goodness. Okay? If somebody told you 100% of that Herbert was going to keep that and Mahomes was going to keep that, you could probably trade right now. People say, oh, what's a lateral move? Not how I'm looking at a lateral move. So you'll hear some funky advice on the Twitter and whatnot. They don't know what they're talking about, folks. I'm just telling you, if you get a little deep, you'll start seeing a little bit of I'm starting to see a little bit towards the bottom of that muddy water. I'm just telling you, and you're saying, well, you can't. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Take your diary. How good are you at drafting, and then how good are you at trading? If you're good at spotting this and saying, yeah, he's going to do it, put it in your diary and seeing how, if you're good at that, take advantage. The Rams have been sad. Look at some sadness here. Vegas, sad. Miami's been on fire, except the tight end. I think that's why they got Claypool. That's what everybody's speculating. If they understand this, if I'm Miami, I'm like, well, I got everybody else covered. I need this covered. I mean, it just seems logical. If I could get just an average, just move this from red to average, that'd be great. Minnesota is strong, folks. They need a running back, but man, they're tearing it up. New England is extra sad on the quarterback, and the Ramondre Stevenson is killing me. And look at this. Look at New Orleans, cutting my throat. But we got Kamara back, so I'm hoping. The Giants, sad quarterback. Everybody else is actually doing pretty good, pretty average. Jets, sad quarterback, sad wide receivers. Philly, there's Hurts, but he's having underperforming tight ends and wide receivers, folks, in scoring. Sad. Pittsburgh's having some issue. Good thing they got running backs. Every 3 snaps, you're getting a point. Cincinnati loves tight ends, but which one do you pick? So they know that's good to have them, but They need a platoon of tight ends. Hard for us. Look at San Francisco. CMC is the show. If something happened to him, Frisco's riding high. I'm just telling y'all, folks, you can't replace CMC. And when I see this data, this tells me that they live and die by CMC. And we'll see how far they go. Tampa Bay, good wide receivers, but there's nothing else happening there. Tennessee, average and a sad quarterback. Washington, love Logan Thomas. They just need to fix their running backs, and they're going to be more competitive. So you can almost visualize what teams should be doing. So if injuries take players out and new players come in and they bounce back up, and we can watch that increase in scoring, we might start seeing things. It's like, hey, I need to get on this train quicker. But right now, this is what we've had for the first 5 weeks, and there's some good news and sad news for teams. So I would go through this a few times and just get a fingertip, let's call it a feeling about each team, okay? You don't want to get too deep at this point. We're just kind of, this is a little bit below the frosting, okay? We're not deep into the cake yet, but this is a way to start, and this is how I do things. This is the professor's process. Hope you enjoyed this. Take care. I'm doing my snaps report every week, so all this data will potentially change or stay the same or get worse. Come on back. I'll have part 2, which I will look at the players on their teams, and we'll get a little bit more of a pecking order and handcuffs and things like that. Okay, woo-woo. We're having fun.